The crack in peace for 3,000 years. The galaxy had known peace. The archive of stars, a vast, crystalline structure floating above the world of Velar, told the story. Wars had ended, orders dissolved, and species once sworn to destroy each other now traded freely across the starlands. No bloodshed, no empire building, no hunger for conquest. It was the Pax Velora, an era so stable, so enduring, that the younger races of the galaxy no longer even believed war had once existed. But the humans remembered. Even after centuries of integration, humanity carried scars. Their homeworld, Earth, was a place of myths and ruins. They had spread across the galaxy, learned, shared, and worked alongside countless species. They built ships, taught medicine, crafted engines, and wrote stories. To most aliens, humans were gentle teachers, builders, and wanderers. Yet beneath the quiet smiles, something else lingered. Something older. Something dangerous. On Velar, under the pale lavender sky, Kalen of the Vayari studied a piece of human technology. The Vayari were tall, scaled beings with delicate ridges of bioluminescence across their foreheads. Kalen's ridges glowed faintly as his fingers traced the smooth lines of a human tool, a compact plasma torch. "It is too simple," Kalen murmured. "Too elegant. Every part has purpose. No ornament. No waste." Across the workshop, sitting on a stool made of welded scrap, was Elias Kane, human, ex-soldier, now mechanic for hire. His hands were scarred, his beard uneven, his dark eyes sharp even when his posture looked lazy. He shrugged. "That's how we do things. If it breaks, you fix it. If it can't be fixed, you make something new. Doesn't need to be pretty." Kalen tilted his head. "But it is pretty," Elias chuckled. "Guess that's just human stubbornness showing." The two had worked together for years, repairing starships too battered for the official Veloran docks. The city around them, Lither Spire, glittered with tall crystal towers and flowing bridges of living stone. To most, it was paradise. To Elias, it always felt too clean, too fragile. Like glass waiting for the first thrown stone. The stone came sooner than anyone expected. That night, under the glow of Velar's twin moons, a fleet entered orbit. Not trade ships. Not science vessels. Warships. The first seen in 3 millennia. The fleet broadcast a single message across the planet, its voice cold, distorted. To the peaceful peoples of the galaxy. The era of stagnation ends. Strength will decide the new order. Submit or be swept away. Shock spread through the streets of Lither Spire. The archive of stars dimmed. Fear rippled across the city's luminous bridges. The Vayari, like most species, had no military anymore. They had forgotten the taste of battle. But Elias Kane did not forget. He stood on the balcony of Kalen's workshop, staring up at the burning lines of the alien fleet. His scarred hands curled into fists. A smile, faint, unsettling, knowing, tugged at his lips. Finally, Elias whispered. Kalen saw it. His glowing ridges flickered with alarm. "Elias, why are you smiling?" Elias turned to him, shadows on his face. "Because peace was never going to last forever. And they have no idea what they just woke up. Asterisk, the first strike. The invaders called themselves the Vadris. A species long thought extinct. They had hidden, rebuilt, and now returned with fleets of obsidian warships, bristling with weapons the peaceful galaxy had never seen. On the first day, the Vadris crippled orbital stations, seized trade routes, and demanded fealty. Entire worlds surrendered without resistance. Velar trembled. Kalen's people, the Vayari, gathered in crystal halls to debate. Could diplomacy calm the Vadris? Could tribute satisfy them? But as reports poured in, massacres, planets burned, leaders executed, Hope withered. Elias sat in silence during those debates, leaning against a pillar, listening. His jaw tightened with every naive suggestion. At last, when a counselor proposed offering Veller's crystal spires as tribute, Elias stepped forward. "You can't negotiate with wolves while you're dressed like sheep," he said flatly. "You think they'll stop with your spires? No, they'll take everything. And when they're done, there'll be nothing left but ashes." The chamber grew silent. Dozens of glowing eyes turned toward him. "And what do you propose, human?" a counselor asked bitterly. Elias smiled again, the same unnerving, quiet smile. "You fight back." Kalen found him later in the workshop, strapping on a battered old combat harness. "You mean to lead us to slaughter?" Kalen demanded. His glowing ridges flared with agitation. "We have no armies, no weapons, nothing." Elias locked a magazine into a rifle older than most of the Veari's crystal towers. "Human steel, kept hidden all these years. You've got me," Elias said softly. "And you've got every human scattered across this galaxy. We may be few, but we remember things the rest of you forgot." Kellen's voice trembled. "Remember what?" Elias glanced out the window, where the warships still loomed. How to win? The first battle for Veller came at dawn. The Vedris descended with dropships, soldiers clad in black armor. The city screamed as explosions shattered crystal bridges. The Veari, untrained, scattered in panic. But from the shadows of the workshop, Elias moved. His rifle roared. His traps, crude explosives, rigged overnight from spare plasma cores, tore through the first wave of invaders. Kalen watched in horror and awe. Elias fought like a storm, brutal and precise. Not with elegance, but with raw, relentless intent. The Vedris expected surrender. Instead, they met humanity's smile. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy tasted war again. Ashes over Velorth. Warships came back the next day. Not scouts, not raiders. An armada. From the balcony of the shattered council hall, Elias Kane stood with Kalen and the few Veari who had not fled. The sky was full of black ships, blotting out the lavender dawn. Their engines rumbled like thunder, shaking the crystal spires until they cracked. A voice filled the air again, cold and merciless. Veller resisted. Veller defies the new order. Veller will be erased. Kellen's ridges flickered with terror. Erased? They mean Elias's jaw clenched. Orbital bombardment. The first blast struck minutes later. Beams of searing light rained down, tearing through the city's heart. Bridges collapsed. Towers fell in clouds of sparkling dust. Screams rose from every quarter. Peace had shattered. Veller was burning. Elias didn't waste time mourning. "Kalen!" "With me," he barked, grabbing the alien's arm. He pulled him down a collapsing stairwell into the workshop. Shards of glowing crystal rained around them. "What can we do?" Kalen cried, voice breaking. "They are gods of destruction. Look at them." "We cannot fight gods." Elias shoved a pack into his chest. Inside were ration bars, tools, and a small human-built communicator. "They're not gods," Elias said, eyes hard. "They bleed." "I've seen it. And if they bleed, we can kill them." The city turned to chaos. Thousands fled toward the lowlands. Elias led a smaller group. Kalen, 2 young Veari engineers, and a handful of terrified civilians into the underbelly of Lither Spire. There, hidden beneath decades of dust, were tunnels older than Veller's peace. Forgotten smuggler routes. Maintenance shafts. Caverns untouched since the first foundations were laid. Elias moved with grim confidence. He had scouted them before, always preparing for the day peace would break. Kalen, stumbling behind, finally asked the question gnawing at him. "Elias, how did you know? How could you be ready for this?" Elias's eyes were dark hollows in the glow of his torch. Asterisk? Because humans don't trust peace, he said. Not completely. We know it never lasts. So we prepare. Always. They emerged deep in the canyons beyond the city, smoke rising behind them. The refugees wept as Velar's capital crumbled into ash. Ka-el in turned to Elias. Where now? There are no armies. No weapons. Nothing left. Elias crouched, unrolling a faded cloth. On it was etched a star map, not of trade routes, not of colonies, but of something older, something secret. We go here, Elias said, pointing to a single star in the void. His finger trembled, not from fear, but from memory. Earth, he whispered. Kalen blinked. Your homeworld? But it is a myth. A ruin. Why? Elias looked up, and for the first time, Kalen saw fire in his smile. Because Earth remembers. And if we're going to fight a war, we'll need what's buried there. They left Velar behind, boarding a battered freighter, hidden in the canyon's shadow. Elias piloted with steady hands, Kalen beside him. The refugees huddled in the hold. As the ship rose into the stars, Kalen glanced back one last time. His glowing ridges dimmed with sorrow. My world, he whispered. Elias's voice was low, but steady. We'll make them pay for it. With interest. The freighter slipped into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind the ashes of Velar. But the Vedras weren't finished. On their command deck, a general snarled as the freighter's trace vanished. Follow the humans, he hissed. Wherever they run, we burn. Asterisk. Secrets of Earth here drifted out of faster-than-light space with a shudder. The stars outside were dimmer here, older, cold. Ahead of them, the long-forgotten world of Earth hung in silence. Kalen pressed his scaled face against the viewport, his glowing ridges faint with awe. It's smaller than I imagined. Quiet. No ships. No lights. Elias didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the blue and green sphere. His home. The place humanity had abandoned centuries ago to scatter among the stars. The place he'd sworn never to return. Yet here he was, home. Elias murmured. The descent was rough. Earth's atmosphere clawed at the freighter, shaking it like a predator with prey. The ship groaned as they broke through clouds heavy with rain. They landed in silence on cracked stone, the ruins of what had once been a city. Broken towers rose, like jagged teeth from the ground. Vines and moss smothered old streets. Birds wheeled overhead, startled by the thunder of engines. The refugees stayed inside the ship, afraid. But Elias and Kalen stepped out into the wet air. Kalen crouched, touching the moss-covered pavement. This was where your people lived? Yeah, Elias said softly. His boots crunched on broken glass. Once, long ago. But what matters isn't up here. He pointed toward the horizon. A jagged mountain, scarred by time. What matters, Elias said, is down there. They traveled for days. Across valleys where rivers had swallowed bridges. Through forests reclaiming highways of black stone. Past statues half buried in dirt, their faces weathered, but still human. Kalen was silent most of the journey, watching Elias. The human walked like a man, retracing old footsteps, like every ruin was a memory. Sometimes his hand brushed a wall, or his eyes lingered on a faded mural. But he never spoke of what he saw. At last, they reached the mountain. Its base was carved with an entrance, a door of black iron, fused shut by centuries of rust. Elias knelt before it, pulling off his pack. From within, he took out something wrapped in oilcloth. He unwrapped it carefully, a key. Simple, metal, etched with words Kalen could not read. Elias pressed it into the door. The ancient lock clicked. With a groan like the world waking from a long sleep, the door slid open. Cold air rushed out. Welcome, Elias said quietly, to the vault. Inside was darkness. They lit torches, walking through halls of steel. Dust swirled in the light, undisturbed for centuries. And then Kalen saw them, rows of machines. Racks of weapons. Engines, armor, drones, satellites. Human technology, sealed away and forgotten. Callan's glowing ridges flared in shock. This is an arsenal. Elias's smile was grim. Not just an arsenal, a legacy. After the wars ended, the humans swore never to let this galaxy bleed again. So we buried our weapons here. We scattered across the stars. We taught peace. But we kept this, just in case. He ran his hand along a metal plate, brushing away dust. Stenciled letters appeared. Project Backfall. Kalen whispered, "You prepared for this. Even 3,000 years ago." "Yeah," Elias said. His voice was hard now. Because humanity knew peace never lasts forever. And when it breaks, someone has to be ready. The refugees were brought inside. Fear gave way to awe as they beheld the machines. Engineers among them wept at the sight of technology beyond anything they had known. Elias set them to work. Fuel the generators. Clear the bays. Learn what you can. We don't have much time. Kalen pulled him aside, voice urgent. The Vedras are coming. You said they were following us. If they find this vault, they won't. Elias cut him off. His eyes were sharp, his voice steel. We'll be ready before they get here. Days turned to weeks. The vault came alive. Lights hummed. Generators roared. Machines older than nations stirred back to life. Kalen trained beside Elias, fumbling at first with human rifles, but growing steadier each day. The Veyari's natural precision made him a deadly shot. The young engineers learned to repair drones, to power armor suits, to reprogram defense grids. And through it all, Elias watched them. Not with softness, but with the cold eyes of a man shaping soldiers from civilians. Kalen noticed. One night, while the others slept, Kalen approached him. You've done this before. Trained people to fight. Elias sat sharpening a blade. His silence stretched before he finally spoke. Yeah, I was a soldier. A long time ago. I trained kids fresh off farms. Sent them into fire. Most didn't come back. He looked down at his scarred hands. I swore I'd never do it again. But here we are. Kalen lowered himself beside him. His ridges glowed faintly in the dark. Why do you keep smiling then? When you speak of war, when you speak of death? You smile. Elias paused. He looked at Kalen, and for once, his smile faded into something heavier. Because if I don't smile, Elias whispered, I'll remember the screams. And I can't carry that again. Not now. Not when you all need me. The vault's alarms broke the night. The Vedras had found them. On the horizon, black ships cut through the clouds. Kalen rushed to Elias's side. They're here. Elias stood tall, strapping into a suit of human battle armor. Its plates locked into place, powered by a humming core. He smiled again, but this time it wasn't a hide. It was sharp, dangerous, alive. Good, he said. Let's show them what 3,000 years of peace have made us forget. Vault's gates opened, and humanity went to war again. Asterisk, the turning tide. The first Vedras dropships tore through the night sky like falling stars. Their black armor glowed with the heat of re-entry. Engines screamed. The ground shook. Inside the vault, the air buzzed with fear. The refugees clutched weapons too heavy for their hands. The young engineers whispered prayers in their mother tongue. Kalen stood in the center, rifle trembling in his grip. Then Elias walked in. He wore full human battle armor now, a relic of a forgotten age. The plates were scarred but unyielding, powered by a deep blue glow. His helmet's visor hissed shut with a snap. For a moment, Kalen swore he saw something more than a man. Not a soldier. Not a mechanic. Something older. Something the galaxy itself had forgotten. Elias raised his rifle. His voice echoed through the hall. Listen up. They think we're weak. They think peace made us soft. They think we forgot how to fight. Tonight, we remind them. The room fell silent. Even the hum of machines seemed to wait. And Elias smiled, the same sharp, defiant smile. Let's make them bleed. The first wave hit the valley floor. Black-armored Vedras spilled out of dropships, weapons glowing red. They marched toward the vault's gates, expecting surrender. What they found instead was fire. Turrets hidden in the cliffs roared to life, spitting streams of molten plasma. Mines buried under moss erupted, tearing squads apart. Defense drones swarmed like metal hornets, slicing through armor with precision beams. Kalen fired from the ramparts, his hands steady now. Each shot dropped an invader. His glowing ridges pulsed bright with adrenaline. Beside him, Elias was a storm. He moved with terrifying precision, rifle barking, grenades arcing, blade flashing when enemies came too close. He fought like war was not just survival, but memory, muscle and instinct older than peace. The Vedras faltered. They had not come for a battle. They had come for an execution. And suddenly, they were the ones being executed. Hours later, the valley was littered with wreckage. Smoke curled from broken dropships. The ground was scorched black. Kalen leaned against a boulder, chest heaving. His hands shook, but his eyes burned with something new, not fear, but fire. We drove them back. Elias stripped off his helmet. His face was drenched in sweat, his beard blackened with ash. But his smile was still there, sharp as ever. Not back, he said. Running. Word spread. Refugees who escaped Velar carried stories across the starlands. Stories of Earth, of humans, of a forgotten arsenal that, at first, other species scoffed. Peace had softened them too much to believe in war. But when Vedras' fleets struck new worlds and met human resistance, not surrender, the scoffing turned to whispers. The humans are fighting back. The humans are winning. The humans are smiling. The turning point came on the world of Renatha. The Vedras descended on its crystal plains, expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found humans waiting. Not just Elias, but dozens. Scattered colonists, forgotten wanderers, engineers, medics. All had come when they heard the call. Kalen stood among them, now wearing light human armor of his own. He glanced at Elias. Double quotes, there are so few of us. How can we win with so few? Elias adjusted his rifle, eyes on the descending ships. You don't need numbers, he said. You need will. You need fire. And humans. We've never run out of fire. The Battle of Renatha was chaos. The Vedras struck hard, their war machines towering like giants. But the humans fought with something the invaders had never seen: unpredictability. Where the Vedras marched in formation, humans improvised. Where the Vedras relied on brute force, humans used traps, sabotage, and cunning. Where the Vedras showed teeth, humans showed smiles. Kalen fought at Elias's side, moving with newfound confidence. Together they toppled war machines, turned captured cannons on their enemies, and drove the Vedras into retreat. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy cheered not for peace, but for victory. That night, around the fires of Renatha, Kalen sat with Elias. You're changing them, Kalen said softly. His ridges glowed faintly in the firelight. Not just us, not just the Veari, the whole galaxy. They're beginning to believe again. In strength. In resistance. Elias stared into the flames, silent. Kalen tilted his head. This was your plan all along, wasn't it? To use Earth's weapons to reignite the will to fight? Elias shook his head. His voice was low, tired. No, Kalen. Weapons are tools. Fire is born in people. I just lit the first spark. Kalen studied him for a long time. Then quietly, he asked the question that had haunted him since the beginning. Why do the Vadras fear you so much? Elias looked up, and for the first time, his smile faded. Because they know the truth, he said. The last time the galaxy went to war, humanity didn't just fight. We ended it. We made peace not through words, but through fire and steel. They remember, and they're terrified that we still carry that in us. Kellen's ridges pulsed faintly. Do you? Elias's eyes glimmered with something sharp, something dangerous. You tell me. The next morning, before they could move, the sky over Renatha darkened, not with dropships, with something larger. A Vadras capital ship descended, its shadow swallowing the plains. Its cannons hummed with deadly light. And then came the voice, not distorted this time, but clear, cold, and personal. Elias Kane, human, you are marked. You will be taken. The rest may burn. Kellen's ridges flickered in alarm. They know your name. They came for you. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle. His smile returned, thin and grim. And let's not keep them waiting. Asterisk the enemy's heart, the battle of Renatha burned bright and fast. Humans and their alien allies fought like wolves against the overwhelming tide. For a while, it seemed even a capital ship could not break them. But the Vadras had not come to destroy. They had come to take. A lance of crimson light shot from the ship, tearing through defenses. Shockwaves hurled Kalen across the ground. Drones fell from the sky. The air stank of scorched earth. Through the chaos, armored Vadras surged, their weapons trained not on the masses, but on Elias Kane. Elias! Kalen cried, forcing himself to his feet. Elias fought like a cornered beast, rifle snapping, blade flashing. He dropped 1, 2, 3 Vadras before they closed on him. But there were too many. Explosive nets wrapped him. Electric spikes dug into his armor. He roared as the current drove him to his knees. Kalen scrambled forward, firing until his rifle burned empty. But the wave swallowed Elias whole. The last thing Kalen saw was Elias, dragged into the belly of the capital ship, his smile still cutting through blood and smoke. Then the ship rose into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. And Elias Kane was gone. Inside the Vadras ship, silence pressed down like a weight. Elias was shackled in a chamber of black stone and humming steel. His armor was torn away. His hands were bound in energy cuffs that seared his skin. A door slid open. The figure who entered was taller than the others. His armor was engraved with silver lines, his eyes glowing like dying stars. Human, the figure said. His voice was smooth, deliberate. I am Lord Vadras. You know my name, though your people believed us dead. Elias spat blood, his smile curling. Guess extinction didn't stick. The Lord tilted his head. Your defiance is curious. Most kneel, most beg, yet you smile. Elias said nothing. The Lord circled him, slow, patient. Do you know why we fear your kind? Why we hunted you even after peace? Elias's eyes flicked up. Because we don't break. The Lord's lips curved in something almost like amusement. No, because when the galaxy burned 3,000 years ago, it was not us who ended it. Not the Vayari, not the Scytherin, not the Archive's keepers. It was humanity. You ended the wars by fire. You forced peace through terror. And then you hid, pretending at gentleness, teaching the others to forget. He leaned close, his glowing eyes piercing. But we did not forget. We remember your cruelty, your machines of annihilation, your weapons that devoured worlds. That is why you must be destroyed before your kind remembers what you are. Elias's smile sharpened. Sounds like you're not afraid of what we were, he whispered. You're afraid of what we still are. Back on Renatha, Kalen paced the ruins of their camp. The humans and refugees licked their wounds, leaderless now. Hope bled away with every hour. Elias remained in enemy hands. Finally, Kalen slammed his fists against the table. His ridges burned with determination. I'm going after him. The others stared. One of the human engineers shook her head. That's suicide. You'll never breach a capital ship alone. Kalen's voice was steady. I won't be alone. Elias believed in me. He lit the fire in all of us. Now it's our turn to burn for him. Asterisk, the room went silent. One by one, the others nodded. The fire was catching Dot in the Vedra's chamber. Elias was beaten, questioned, starved. They demanded the vault's coordinates. They demanded humanity's hidden arsenals. He gave them nothing but his smile. Finally, Lord Vedras himself returned. You will break. You will kneel. And when you do, we will broadcast it to every world. Humanity's champion bowed before the true order. Elias chuckled, his voice hoarse. You don't get it, do you? The Lord frowned. What? Elias leaned forward, eyes burning despite the chains. You can chain me. You can beat me. But you can't kill the fire. Not anymore. It's out there now. In them. In all of them. You can't stop it. For the first time, Lord Vedras hesitated. His glowing eyes dimmed, just slightly. And then alarms blared. The walls shook. Explosions rocked the ship. Elias's smile widened. Right on time. He muttered. Kelen led the charge. Disguised in stolen Vedras armor, he and the strike team of humans infiltrated the capital ship. They cut through guards, planted charges, and stormed the prison decks. Kalen burst into the chamber just as a guard raised his blade over Elias's chained form. With a roar, Kalen fired, dropping the soldier in a heap. Elias! Elias lifted his head, bloodied but grinning. Took you long enough. Kalen rushed to his side, smashing the energy cuffs. We're getting you out of here. The chamber doors slammed open. Lord Vedras entered, blade humming with power. You should have fled, the Lord said. Now you will all die. Elias rose, barely able to stand, but still smiling. He picked up a broken spear, leveling it at the towering figure. Funny, he rasped. That's exactly what I was about to tell you. Asterisk, the smile that broke the galaxy. Chamber trembled as explosions echoed through the Vedras capital ship. Kalen stood at Elias's side, rifle raised, while the rest of their strike team held the door. Beyond it, dozens of armored Vedras thundered closer. But none of them mattered. All eyes were on the towering figure of Lord Vedras. His blade hummed with crimson energy, its glow bathing the room in bloodlight. You are broken, he said, his voice a calm storm. Your bones fractured. Your people scattered. You are nothing. Elias, barely able to stand, gripped the broken spear. His face was bloodied, bruised, scarred. Yet his smile was there, fierce, defiant, unyielding. You think I'm nothing? He rasped. Then you've already lost. The duel began. Lord Vedras struck first, his blade cutting arcs of red fire through the air. Elias parried with the broken spear, sparks flying. Every blow rattled his bones. Every strike drove him closer to collapse. But he did not falter. Kalen fired at the Lord, but the shots ricocheted harmlessly off his armor. No! Elias shouted. He's mine. The room filled with the clash of steel and the roar of energy. Elias fought with the raw memory of 1,000 battles, each movement born not of strength, but of sheer will. He was slower, weaker, wounded, yet every time Lord Vedras expected him to fall. Elias's smile met him like a blade of its own, the smile of a human who refused to die. Kalen saw it, a hesitation. The Lord's swings grew sharper, faster, but less certain. Fear edged his strikes. That fear spread. The soldiers at the door faltered, seeing their invincible leader checked blow for blow by a man chained only minutes before. Kalen seized the moment. He shouted to the strike team, "This is our fire. Burn with it." The humans and refugees roared, surging into the hall, cutting down the stunned guards. The tide turned in the corridors while Elias and Lord Vedrus clashed in the heart of the storm god at last. Elias's spear snapped in half. The Lord raised his blade for the killing stroke. "You smile at death," Lord Vedrus growled. But death smiles back. Elias, breathing ragged, whispered, "Then we'll laugh together." He caught the blade in his bare hands. The energy seared his flesh, burning through bone. Pain racked his body, but he held it taut, and in that instant, Kalen fired. The shot struck the power core on the Lord's chest. The armor cracked. The glow faltered. Elias wrenched the blade aside, and with a roar, drove the jagged spear shaft through the opening. The Lord staggered. His glowing eyes dimmed. Elias leaned close, his face inches from his enemies, and he smiled one last time. "Welcome back to war." Lord Vedrus collapsed, his body thundering against the chamber floor. Silence. Then, the impossible happened. The Vedrus soldiers, those who survived, dropped their weapons. Without their leader, they were shadows. Their fear of humanity had been confirmed. Kalen rushed to Elias, catching him as he sagged. His hands were burned, his body broken, but his eyes still gleamed with that unshakable fire. You did it," Kalen whispered, tears glowing in his ridges. Elias coughed, blood staining his lips. "No, we did it. Together." The strike team fought their way to the hangar, seizing a transport. With Lord Vedrus dead and his army broken, the capital ship shuddered in chaos. Explosions ripped through its core. They escaped into the stars as the vessel tore itself apart. A dying sun in the void. The war was not over. The Vedrus still had fleets, still had worlds. But the news spread faster than light. The humans had not only resisted, they had slain the unkillable. The humans had not only fought, they had won. And they had done it with a smile. Across the galaxy, species long cowed by fear rose again. Colonies took up arms. Refugees became fighters. And at the center of it all, wherever the fire spread, there was one word on every tongue: humanity. Weeks later, in the rebuilt halls of Veller, a new council gathered. Not of one species, but many. Veyari, Rinifans, Sithrin, and humans sat together. Not as subjects of peace, but as allies of war. At the head of the chamber, Elias stood, scarred, bandaged, still leaning heavily on Kalen. The council begged him to lead, to take the mantle of general, of commander, of savior. But Elias only shook his head. "I'm no savior. I'm just a man who remembered what we lost. Peace will come again, but not the peace you knew. Not fragile, not blind. A peace built on strength, on fire, on trust. And if anyone challenges it again," he smiled, "they'll remember this day." Kalen watched him, ridges glowing with pride. For his people, for all people, but most of all, for the human who carried war in his scars, compassion in his heart, and defiance in his smile. Epilogue: in the silent ruins of Earth, the vaults stirred. Machines hummed, satellites awoke, engines whispered. Humanity's legacy was no longer buried. Across the stars, the fire spread, and whenever enemies spoke of humanity, they spoke with a shiver, remembering the day the peace of 3,000 years was broken, and the response of humankind was not fear, not surrender, just a smile, asterisk,